on deadline. I got like 3 brain cells I'm working with right now. But this has been an incredible conference. You ladies blow me away. You know, when I'm touring or if I'm speaking, you know, it's usually artiste type folks. You know, I'm very rarely in a room with a great group of dynamic African American women who are taking care of business. So I'm very, very honored to be here with you today. So I want to begin by thanking Dr. Lee Meadows for inviting me to participate in this conference, and again, to be in the company of these incredible women that we've heard from today. Women leaders and women leading is a major theme in the books that I write, and is on their shoulders and their histories, told by Dorothy A. Sterling, Dr. Benjamin Quarles, William Loren Katz, Darlene Clark Hines, and others that I stand before you today. I always begin my talks by acquainting my audiences with a sister by the name of Maria W. Stewart, who in 1832 changed the world. She spoke at an event sponsored by Boston's African American Literary Society. The speech was against the Send Black Folks Back to Africa movement being pushed by the American Colonization Society. And it wasn't the subject matter that set her apart, but the fact that she was speaking to a promiscuous audience.
Well.
Now, language has changed. Promiscuous did not mean then what it means now.
Okay.
What it meant then was mixed gender audiences. So with Lee here, I'm speaking to a promiscuous audience. So every woman in America who steps up to a podium has her to thank, because she paved the way for female speakers like all of us. She was the first American woman of any race to speak before a mixed gender audience. So anytime all of you get up, Hillary, Oprah, Michelle, me, y'all, you have Mariah or Maria W. Stewart to thank. Now, Dorothy Sterling, we'll come back to Maria in a minute. Dorothy A. Sterling's book, We Are Your Sisters, Black Women in the 19th Century, is my go-to Bible for women's history. And if you don't have a copy of it in your personal library, please get it. It's called We Are Your Sisters, Black Women in the 19th Century by Dorothy A. Sterling. It will change the way you view the contributions of African American women during the 18th and the 19th century. And in it, Sterling talks about the 3 gifts that Black women had that helped them be so successful in unprecedented numbers after the Civil War. The first, we worked. The second, the commitment to community through social activism. And last but not least, our penchant to push the boundaries on race and gender. So let's start with the first gift, working. Black women worked whether they were enslaved or free. If you were one of the 3 million held against your will in the South, you worked mostly in the fields from dawn to dusk, and at the end of the day went home to take care of your family and their needs. According to recent studies, there were over 200,000 free blacks in the North before the Civil War. The largest concentration was in Philadelphia, New York City, and other large cities in the East. Michigan had about 6,000 in 1860. And if you were a free, married woman of the race, you probably worked, because the jobs held by our men rarely paid enough to support a household, so wives worked as domestics, seamstresses, washerwomen, teachers, and whatever else paid enough to keep their households afloat. Now, Mariah Stewart, we talked about at the beginning, was orphaned at the age of 5 and was bound out to the family of a white Presbyterian minister until she was 18. Now, in her writing, she doesn't offer much detail on those years, only that they treated her fairly and directed her to the love of God. But can you imagine having to work for strangers at the age of 5? So women of the race, both enslaved and free, worked during and after slavery, and that would be in our favor when the world opened up to women after the Civil War. So I'd like to stop and, if you got any questions, throw up a hand. It ain't that serious, okay? And we can discuss that. Okay, so that's our first gift, is that we worked like y'all. Me, I spend my day at my